Hi YouTube. So we just got a patch notes for patch 1.33 that they had announced yesterday on the campfire. I'm recording this live on stream. We have chat here. Hi YouTube. And yeah, I'm gonna give you a short summary basically of what is going on. A few things have been previewed already, so I'm not gonna go over every single patch notes here. It's actually quite a long patch notes, to be fair, for just a casual mid-season patch. But I have the summary right here on the side. So what you need to know is Uber crafting is going from 5 to 4 mods. So if you have any of those mods saved up, you want to hold on to them until Tuesday. Generator builds are getting a huge buff. In general, there's 6 new legendary aspects coming to the game, which are based on the Vampiric powers from Season 2. So in case you haven't seen that, they are here right now on the screen. The biggest one being Moonrise. But there's also Metamorphosis, for example, for Tibbers Will synergies. There's stuff like Undying coming back. There's Hectic, which I think is going to be pretty powerful for very cooldown-hungry builds. So a bunch of really good stuff in there. And they fixed snapshotting. So at the very least, it suggests that most of it is fixed. We don't know if all of it is fixed, but all this like item swapping and keeping certain effects and, you know, the key passes on a sword and that kind of stuff seems to be gone on Tuesday. So that's really cool. And on top of this, in case you were wondering, you can also not switch any of your items and skills in the Gauntlet when you're trying to compete there. But it's going to be gone from the rest of the game as well. Now, there is a lot of balance updates here, mostly buffs. I don't think they have actually nerfed anything in here, besides maybe a few bug fixes and stuff. So what you need to know is early game Barb and Druid, they got some major upgrades. So especially all of the generators, you can see this here right now, for example, on the Barb, they give you a lot more fury now. And for example, also this passive here and this fury gives you a lot more fury. Kind of similar story on the Druid, where everything just gives you more resources. They also mega buffed companions on the Druid. So that is already like the early game tech for the Druids in general. Like just go triple companions and they carry you basically. But they have gotten massive buffs here, 45% active, 40%, 20%. Even the Poison Creeper got a massive buff, which was like already a huge carry. And they also buffed some of the other companion stuff, including the unique for the wolves. So companions might actually be something of a thing now. So that is really cool to see. So druids are generally in a very good spot. And now they have maybe yet another endgame build and way better early game. Kind of similar for the barbs. They just, you know, they get like a small whirlwind buffs and stuff, but they're overall really strong and the early game is much improved. Now Necros, I guess, is like the highlight of this entire patch. They got a lot of stuff. So first of all the pets have been buffed like straight up with extra damage and health. They buffed the aspects for it. For example, there's like this damage reduction for minions aspect that now also applies to the player. So even non-pet builds will actually run that aspect probably for 20% damage reduction straight up. That is really good. They buffed a bunch of necro passes. There's extra movement speed. There's extra damage. There's extra armor now from the spiked, like this Thorns passive. Spiked armor, I think it's called. A bunch of stuff like that. Course Explosion is buffed. A bunch of the core skills are buffed. In particular, Blood Surge. Blood Surge was already like kind of like the leveling build, like this racing build for Necro, and now it's just like more than 50% more damage on single target. So I did some math on that. But yeah, they buffed the Nova damage, slightly reduced the drain per enemy, but they also buffed the aspect for it to deal much more damage on the Echo. So Blood Surge is insane now. So this might actually be like kind of the play. Also for the Gauntlet, for example. But yeah, I think this is so good that it might even make Bloodlands completely redundant. And some other highlights here for the Necro is also Bone Prison makes enemies vulnerable now for 8 seconds. So we have this here. So that's also a massive buff that I didn't really expect here, but okay. And a bunch of other small things like Blight is a bit buffed, Sever is a bit buffed, etc. So there's a few things here still in the rest of the patch notes, but those are kind of like the big things here for the Necro. So they're looking really good. I think this might actually kind of like, you know, elevate minion builds to kind of like a decent status at least. We'll see how exactly that will play out, but they have gotten some insane buffs. So if you combine this with some of the Paragon changes, the minion changes themselves, and then the aspect changes, this can turn out really, really powerful, I think. Now, for the rogues, the ranged basics have been buffed. They have previewed this already. The barrage is like going to be probably the build now, I guess, for ranged rogues. There is still Pen RF. In fact, they actually also buffed rapid fire a little bit for some reason, because killing Duriel like 20 times over in one shot is not enough. But yeah, so Barrage got this insane new aspect, or like reworked aspect rather, that we have here the branching volleys. So if you put this on a amulet or two-handed weapon, it's gonna go absolutely crazy, and your Barrage is gonna have pretty solid AoE clear, and it's gonna be like a really strong all-around skill now. So this is something I'm gonna be working on as a Gauntlet build as well. I also want to work on basically like a D3 Demon Hunter style multi-shot build with Barrage, because I think that's quite doable now with this new aspect and the precision changes that now require you only 4 stacks instead of 6. So for example, for non-common point builds, this has become a lot more viable suddenly, because now you get this thing every 3 shots instead of every 4. They also mega buffed Flurry, so we have this up here. Everything on Flurry just does more damage, so that definitely helps. It was definitely needed, I think. So Flurry is going to be pretty solid for like overall damage output now. Still not really like the super powerful build on single target, but this will be fine. And yeah, precision is just like really powerful. So this is kind of the highlight on the Rogue. And for the Sorks, there's not all too much. They did buff a few things here on the Sork. So we have this Sorkers here before the Rogue. So mostly Incinerate got some insane buffs, but also some small buffs here. For example, Ball Lightning, Hydra, Icy Whale, for example, you have longer barriers now. In general, they buffed the defenses on a bunch of these glyphs as well. And some other small things here, like for example, Soulfire passive that now gives you a lot of less mana cost and extra damage. So it's just more usable, and then you have double the bonus when you stand still. So that's kind of nice. Very powerful buffs here for some fire builds as well. But yeah, this is basically most of the highlights. There is some more small stuff in there. For example, they buffed a bunch of other like underused things. You know, some examples here, Eaglehorn, Ice in the Dark, and so on. But I don't think they're really that impactful. And every class has like a few of these somewhat whatever changes sprinkled in here. But this is kind of like the main takeaways, I think. So a lot of stuff is getting a lot better next patch. Starting on Tuesday, right after the Gauntlet release. So I think really something to look out for here is, especially for the Rogues, I believe, the Barrage stuff, maybe the Flurry stuff as well. It could be really good, especially the range generator stuff. And for the Necros, Blood Surge, the pets, and yeah, most of the other classes don't really change all too much. But maybe some people might try to do like a Druid companion build now. And that's pretty much it. So this is a summary. I'm going to have the full patch notes linked in the description, so you can go check them out. And of course, I'm going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to be working on builds for especially Rogues, I guess, with the Barrage stuff that I mentioned. And let's see what comes out of that. Hope you enjoyed this little summary here, and see you guys next time.